Okay, Ben. Big news this week.
Hmm.
In fact, the title of this video, "Rest in Peace, Space Marines."
Oof. This one
It's
makes me
Yeah.
nervous.
yeah, it's I maybe skipping ahead here, Ben. Will we? Can we? Do you want to tackle the big topic first, or do you want to get the
Well,
campaign out of the way first?
I'll give you some grounding as to where a lot of this sort of this discussion point came from. Last weekend there was a big thing about sort of Warhammer 40,000 and where things were going to be going in the next couple of months and stuff.
Yeah,
And a large focus of this is towards a new campaign book for Vigilus.
yeah,
So Vigilus is the world that sits between two sides of the Imperium at this point, and it's kind of like the melting pot for all the different races and all the Xenos and Imperium forces to be battling it out for control of it because it's such a key integral point of this. And so Games Workshop are going to be sort of ticking on their story a little bit further, taking things a little bit another step beyond with this new campaign book, which will introduce a new storyline and sort of campaigns and scenarios for you to follow, as well as a new villain called Harken World Claimer, who has proclaimed to the galaxy and to the Imperium as a whole that he will be able to destroy Vigilus and take it for Abaddon within 80 days. So this is a big thing that's coming out of this. Obviously, one of the interesting things that came out is that obviously to go up against Harken, we're going to have a good guy. And so on the side of the Imperium, we've now got Marnius Calgar returning to the fold in new Primaris guise. So he still has the gauntlets of Ultramar, but he's not the head honcho of the Space Marines anymore because obviously Rowboat Girly Man
Girly Man came back. Yeah.
is now in
Sam,
charge. So he's now second in
Ben,
command.
you're going to have to sit back a bit, mate, because we can't see the entirety of your beautiful face.
Yeah, you're giving yourself a little bit off the top there, buddy.
But yes. So this spurred off a little bit of interesting discussion about what's going to be happening in terms of Primaris and where it's going to go in the future. So, for example, when it comes to some of the sort of larger sort of army kits that are coming out over the next couple of months in the run up to Christmas, two of them are very, very Primaris focused. They don't have
Yes.
any of the old models in them.
Correct.
And in the Imperial Fist one, you actually have some accessories which allow you to add a lot more sort of items onto your Primaris Marines, for example, Power Fist and stuff.
Yes, which they
And so
didn't
this is-
have previously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is having a lot of people discussing the idea that potentially what might happen in the future is that we might start to see a phase out of the old Space Marines in favor of us seeing largely more Primaris-centric forces on the tabletop.
Yes.
So, as I say, it is an upgrade kit at the moment, just in one of these battle forces, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Space Marines are going to go the way of the Dodo. So don't worry about that. But
Yeah, they will.
it certainly raises an interesting discussion point.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Let me bring some opinion to this.
Okay.
So 2 years ago, whenever the Primaris actually first came out, I
Has
had
it been 2 years?
Yep.
Time flies.
About that,
it's
yeah.
nearly 3. It'll be by
I think they came
by
out-
June. It's
yeah.
about 2.5 years ago. By June.
Yeah, they
June,
came out while I was in Japan.
Drink a shot.
Wait, no, you were in Japan? I never knew.
Okay. Have you drunk your shots? Okay. So,
Japan, 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 Japan.
Don't. You'll give people alcohol.
Walk
poisoning.
home later.
I had an opportunity to get a chinwag with Jez Goodwin
Yeah.
at the time, and Jez, obviously the legendary designer behind the original Space Marines.
Yeah.
And I was firstly I was complimenting them on the job they had done with the Primaris
Yeah.
because I think the Primaris are a stupendous design of a Space Marine. I think that they look absolutely wonderful.
Well, when you
And-
modernize something so iconic.
Well, this is the thing. I'd always looked at the Space Marines and I thought to myself, how can you better that?
Yeah.
And he totally did.
Yep.
I much prefer.
And I know that Jez, there was a couple of things that we were all talking about at the time in a group, and Jez had mentioned, that how intimidating it had been for him
Yeah.
to tackle such an iconic design and to take it to the next level, and I kind of got the impression from that this wasn't just about a new unit. There was much more pressure on Jez to deliver something outstanding here. So although he never said it, reading between the lines from the importance of that guy, he seemed to, and how seriously he took that role. And back then, I assumed, yes, this is clearly the new Space Marine, and
Yeah.
we'll be looking at a phased approach, but Space Marines are going to look like this in the future.
When it came out, I was surprised that they actually worked them into the lore as Primaris.
Yeah.
I assumed that they would go, this is the new Space Marine kid.
Yeah, like they did
These
with
are
the Terminators.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
These are Space Marines. And yeah, you could use your old miniatures, sure. But as you bought in new ones, these are the Space Marines. I'm very surprised they worked it into the lore.
To be fair, I actually give them a lot of credit for that, because by this stage, right, we're now 30 years into Warhammer 40k. I would like to hazard a guess that there's probably 1 billion Space Marines out there.
There's
wouldn't-
about 100 in a box under my bed.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Games Workshop have actually stamped 1 billion Space Marines. There was another thing that came up when I was chatting with Jez and the other designers in Games Workshop at the time, and it was something that in passing that seemed very important to them, but hadn't really been talked about at the start.
Yeah.
And that was about that there was a process in the background where a Space Marine could go through a process to be put into Primaris armor.
Yeah.
Now, it wasn't being talked about at that point of Primaris very much, but once again, reading between the lines, it seemed like a very important thing for the designers and the design team about this, which once again suggested to me that this is what it obviously is, and it was, it's time to take the Space Marine and bring it bang up to date and make it even more incredible than it already was.
Now, a lot of people, I was reading the comments on this post, and some people were very worried that this means their original Space Marine armies are going to be unusable now because the Primaris focus on single weapon squads, whereas the tactical Marines were all about variety.
Yeah.
I think you're just going to be able to upgrade your Primaris into Primaris Tacticals, or whatever, so you could use them.
No, because the Primaris play very differently, and it's
At the moment.
Well,
At the moment, and they'll probably come up with a new unit.
Yeah.
designation and a whole new
It's-
bunch of stuff.
Yeah, look, well, we're going through a phase that we have went through in a small way before, and that was when the Terminators upgraded to because Terminators at the time they looked great, and then they made Terminators that were incredible.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
we've just went through the Space Hulk challenge, and it is because I still think Terminators are king.
Yeah, but just wait, because they're probably going to have to redesign the Terminator.
The Terminator will get a redesign, and I wouldn't be surprised if it happened this year.
I hope so.
If we started to see the next edition of the Terminator.
More
to be fair to
Primaris.
Games Workshop, the design team there, I think, have been very, very respectful on this. So they recognize the sheer number of Space Marine models and stuff that's out there. So they thought, well, look, let's try and see if we can create a way to integrate these into the armies so that they don't just look weird. Because I think what they were trying to avoid was a case of people feeling like their Space Marines had been replaced and stuff. They wanted to try and give a seamless, slow grow way of introducing the new style armor into your forces. And to be fair, whether you thought the execution of that was clumsy or not, there was no easy way to do it, and I commend them for giving it a shot. I was perfectly fine with it, and I think what we will see is that we will just see a thing where they are basically all Space Marines again.
Yeah, I think that'll be how it goes.
I think what you're going to see first is not that they're all just instantly going to go Primaris. I think you're going to see all of your characters are going to get upgraded to Primaris first.
Possibly.
And until all of that's done, I don't think you'll see the regular squads getting upgraded.
Yeah, well,
Just for the way it will happen, I'm thinking.
well, even in that box of the Imperial Fists,
Yeah.
you're starting to see the
Yeah,
ability
some
to
of the
change
kits.
the Primaris. It's
Don't worry. There's enough Primaris lieutenants out there to field I don't know how many different armies.
yeah, it's really a case of I don't know how it will go, but I certainly wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah.
What I would like to see, which I think would be really interesting, is as a bit of a nod, now that they have actually built the armor into the lore, okay, I would love to see them do a little bit of a nod in the next editions going forward, where the older Space Marine, the armor, actually get a little bit of a venerable tag to them, to give them, even some special rules or something like that to show that
There was a rule
veteran
for
status.
There was a rule for Chaos Space Marines. It may still exist. I can't remember, but where they could have what was called it was like a long war.
Veteran of the Long War.
Veteran of the Long War. Why not have that similarly applied to sort of old style Space Marines that you want to put into sort of more squads and stuff? So.
I think I think it would be a lovely kind of sign of respect to the older models, and I would love to see that same thing applied to other models that get replaced, like the older dreadnoughts.
Well, I have a question. Do
I
you
love the
need
more
to
modern
discontinue
dreadnoughts.
them?
Sorry?
The Space Marine model is still a great model. I don't
Yeah, it's
think you
amazing.
need to get rid of it.
Well, look, they're not getting rid of it because not yet. Anyway,
I mean the older mark.
But because look at the blind buy, the Space Marine heroes and stuff like that. None of those are Primaris.
Oh yeah, but what I'm saying is the actual tactical Marine box. I don't think that ever needs got rid of. I think it will always sell just as well. I don't think that the Primaris will take over from it.
It'll sell based on what the rules of the game allow it to do.
And then
I understand what you're saying. It's very collectible in its own right.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it will live or die based on the rules. And I think
as soon as there's a way for them to work into the background or to create a kit that will allow us Primaris Space Marine to carry a missile launcher and a flamer. At that point, they'll just get rid of the old tactical squad and they'll make sure that the Primaris one is the new one.
Yeah, I think we are on the way towards Primaris tactical squads.
And I think it's fair enough because I think Primaris Space Marine armies are going to be amazing. However,
they'll look amazing.
They will. However, the rumbles now are on Primaris scaled rhinos and other vehicles.
Well, I am hearing rumblings that we're going to get a new codex in 2019. For Space Marines, and I wouldn't be surprised. I'm really looking forward to seeing the chapter approved for this year to see what rules are going to be in there.
Well, of course, it's not just the new Primaris and everything that is showing a new direction for 40k. There is an element of expanding the storylines in this new campaign book as well. Ben, you were talking to me about this earlier as well.
Yeah, so one of the interesting things about this is that, one of the big things that's always been a problem for 40k in general was this idea that everything was always at this 2 minutes to midnight and nothing could ever progress.
Yeah.
And so with what they're doing with Vigilus, it allows them to create almost a sort of compartmentalized version of the 40k universe on that one planet. And it allows them to do catastrophic things, great, brilliant things, and all these kind of things that were, would be fantastic for people to see in the wider world of 40k, but on a small scale, so they can do things like Great Crusades and hack on potentially destroying this planet, all that kind of thing, without it affecting the wider lore as well. And it also means that they can come up with a whole bunch of different reasons to throw all the different factions onto this planet. Because one of the big things that for a lot of people, always hits home is well, why are my Tau fighting kind of thing? We live on the other side of the galaxy. Why are we getting involved? If you make everything centralized around this one idea of this one key planet, suddenly you've got a big sort of focus for a lot of the different armies and stuff. And it helps people sort of generate a bit more of a narrative around their force as well. So
it's kind of like the benefits and the drawbacks that I want to do a comparison.
Yeah.
So you take 40k versus the two big historical games, so like Flames of War, Bolt Action.
Yeah.
Okay. So Bolt Action, Flames of War. Okay. The first edition of their models are in metal or in resin.
Yeah.
Okay. Those guys come out with better plastic models.
Yeah.
But because they're based on historical tanks and things like that there, it's very easy to just slip them in. It's just a better looking tank.
Yeah.
Okay? Games Workshop in 40k want to replace the Space Marine with a better looking model. That's not quite so easy. You know, because it's you could do what they did with the Terminators and just come out with a better model and hope for the best. But when you have 1 billion Space Marine models out there, it's not such an easy thing. That's the con that they face. The pro that they face is obviously in the World War II genre, there are some limitations to where you
can't start throwing out experimental vehicles and stuff.
Take the story. You can, but it
suddenly becomes weird.
It becomes a bit fringe. Okay, in 40K, you suddenly have this ability to start taking it wherever you want.
Yeah,
I personally, when we talk about this 2 minutes to midnight thing, it always seems like it's a big limiting constraint on the 40K universe, but it's not really, because those 2 minutes you can make them as long as you want or as short as you want. And the other thing is that someday they can just move
they did.
That's what they did. With
I mean they can just move that it's no longer 2 minutes to midnight. It's an hour and a half to midnight. You know, they just move midnight.
Yeah, but
because
midnight has happened.
Yeah.
Well, no, it hasn't.
No, it hasn't happened.
It's more like we've moved from 2 minutes to midnight to a minute to midnight.
Yeah,
and that something happened.
Basically, that midnight stroke
Yeah.
is the death of the Imperium. This is basically anybody that of any importance within the Games Workshop over the past 30 odd years. They all know that ultimately they know how the story ends. The story ends with the death of the Imperium.
It's like what happened with...
They don't survive this.
Are you sure? Because some of the backstory these days is a bit more positive.
It's like what happened with Warhammer Fantasy Battles. It was also on that 2 minutes to midnight.
Yeah.
And then they had the midnight event that happened, the end times, and that literally was the midnight moment. The entirety of the world was overrun by chaos. And 40K has always existed in that same sort of space.
Yeah, this is why I think 40K have had that midnight moment whenever the Eye of Terror ripped across the galaxy.
No, Justin.
But it went the other way because now you have Roboute Guilliman fighting all back.
No.
I disagree.
I'm telling you now, the most senior folk in Games Workshop that you and I would ever be able to get to talk to,
right,
have told me this.
Okay.
That's not how the story ends. They all die.
They all go to a farm upstate.
It's the Imperium.
Here's a question.
Dies.
Here's a question.
Okay.
So we've seen the Space Marines get a gorgeous redesign.
Yes.
Which model from the entire range would you love them to see that done to next?
The Rhino.
The Rhino?
Yes,
You're staying with Space Marine and wanting to see the Rhino done.
Orcs as a whole.
Right. Well, here's the look, they have loads of options.
Yeah.
So here's the ones that I want to see the rest of the Space Marine line fleshed out to suit the Primaris.
Right.
If we're going down that route, let's bring the drop pods, the Rhinos and stuff up to
just
stuff.
For the sake of it, I'm going to disagree with the fact that they're going to get rid of the Tactical Marine because I think it's good enough to still stay and play with the Primaris. Okay.
Do you know at some point during this, I was looking at him and there's just this wee sense of worry over his face, and all I could hear was, "Hello, darkness, my friend." I don't mean to frighten you, man. You know, these are good times we're headed into. You know, even though they all die, it's like. But after the Space Marines, right? Let's have a think about this. Let's talk about like a major refresh.
Yeah,
okay?
There was one I was talking to someone about in the Pro Store, which was the Orcs, and I've actually seen the first miniatures where they've done a redesign on the Orcs, which is the new wagons they've done. So the stuff for Speed Freaks.
Yes.
Looking at the Orcs on that, they look totally different to your line Orcs.
I think of all of them, the Orcs are kind of the only ones that I think need a complete refresh.
Chaos Space Marines.
Well,
yeah,
Chaos
Marine
Space
would be
Marines.
good.
Yeah,
outside
Chaos
of the
Space
Plague
Marines.
Marines.
Yeah. So,
and of course we got the new Noise Marine.
This guy.
Yeah, I know
which is based on Jez Goodwin's original sketches. To get back to Jez Goodwin.
Yep.
I know you've been dying to bring that one up, Justin.
It's that is just a stunning.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Do you know what I love about that? I love the base.
Yes.
Green base,
they
yeah.
totally went for the classic base.
Yeah.
Whoever painted that in the
That doesn't look like a bass. Looks more
whoever-
like an electric guitar.
Oh God! It's whoever went for that in the
Yeah.
in the heavy metal team.
Well done.
Kudos to that. Doing the classic green bass
Hmm.
Yeah.
on that was a lovely touch.
Yeah.
It for me, Eldar are fine. Okay.
You can maybe tidy them up and do something.
I think they're
with all that.
Guardians. Could
Yeah, but I
use
don't
an
think they
update.
need to change in scale.
No, not
Okay.
in scale.
Necrons don't need to change in scale.
No.
Tau don't need to change in scale. Chaos could do with a change in scale just to keep the
Like,
fearsomeness.
we saw those
fearsomeness up.
three new Chaos Marines in the Blackstone Fortress mod. I think that's the direction they're going to
I
take.
Well,
don't
we've
think
also
anything
got
in the, I don't
this guy.
I don't think anything in the Imperial Guard needs to change in scale.
No.
The only army I think it needs to scale up a little bit in terms of their bulk and their size and their format and is the Orcs.
See, I don't know, because I also think in the Guard you could do with some modernization of the miniatures. I still don't really like the Ogrins. I would love to see them get a redesign.
But these are just tweaks.
No, I'm talking about going ground up, redesign that bad boy.
Okay, redesigning the Ogrins, I'm considering a tweak. It's not like redesigning the Space Marine. Okay,
there's none
More
that
like
says can't do
redesigning the
that.
Cadian Guard.
And
Yeah.
it doesn't just have to be scale, because some of the models are showing an older design aesthetic. Like the Orcs, you're seeing the older design aesthetic with the faces, the hands, things like that. Going back
my
to
point
revisit those, so-
on Orcs though, Justin, right, is I bring out my fancy new Primaris army.
Yeah, and the Orcs look a little
Okay.
weedy next
The
to them.
Orcs look really weedy and squatty,
Mm.
you know. And that's not what an Orc in the 40k
No.
universe should look like.
No.
So they need to scale. For all of the others, I don't think it makes any difference. Guard, their scale is fine. I don't think they need a rank and file overview
No.
and redesign.
I don't know, it
I
could be
don't-
nice though.
I don't think. Of course, it'd be nice, but you know, like,
It's
what are you
not
going to do? You're going to
needed.
add 3 mil to them? What difference would that
I'm
make?
not talking about scale. You're too focused on scale. I am talking about
But-
making the design current
But the-
and making it look like it matches up
Okay,
well with the new
what is the
Marines.
difference? What is the difference between the old Space Marine and the Primaris Marine, Justin?
The armor has been redesigned completely from the ground up. Yes, it's bigger, but bigger doesn't essentially mean better. If they had kept them the same size,
That's
and-
not what
Now,
people have been telling me over the years.
Yeah, but for me, if they had made that Primaris Marine the exact same
Take a
skill
shot.
as a Space Marine, it would be fine to me. It doesn't have to be bigger.
But they
I'm
didn't.
saying they can modernize. Yeah, but you're too focused on it. I'm saying they can modernize the designs without having to change scale. And I bet you people will agree with me out there. If you took a regular guardsman, completely redesigned his kit for
Okay.
the entire base squad, people would love it.
Yeah,
I'm
but
going to grant you one of two things is going to happen out there. Either people are going to completely agree with you on this,
Or call me an idiot.
in which case I have completely missed the point of this conversation, or they might be sitting there like me right now going, have I completely missed the point of this conversation? Because it is,
Yeah.
you know, it's...
The
You're
point-
focusing in on a single
well,
design
the point
aspect.
was the things that needed a scale overhaul.
to bring it in line with the Primaris. The Primaris
Yeah.
are now going to be the new benchmark upon which everything is going to be compared to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if the Primaris replace the Tactical Marine, which is going to happen at some point.
I don't
okay?
think it will, but okay.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. It is going to happen. And if they do that, then everything then becomes compared to the Primaris.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, I'm saying I think most of the range is fine in terms of their sizing, their scaling and stuff, except for Orcs. I think Orcs really do need a new fresh look and a new fresh rescale
Okay.
for them to still look formidable.
Okay. And what I'm trying to get across is.
Okay, I know what
No,
you're
no,
trying to
wait,
get across.
wait.
Yes, okay.
Which is what I think we're crossing connections on here is I think there are other models and other races within the range that they could be redesigning to make them look a lot better, because some of them are really showing their age now.
Yes, but they're doing that as a matter of course. I'm not disputing that. They do that anyway. They do that right across the range. They go back in and they make tweaks. They make it better. They do whatever.
Yeah, but I don't see some of that as tweaks. I see it as if they go in and completely redesign something, that is as major a change as changing the Space Marine without doing scale.
Okay, so hang on a second, right? So going in and changing the design of Ogryns,
Yes, let's
you
completely
right,
redesign those.
right, you consider that as major as what they did in bringing out the Primaris.
I think yes, if they do it to say a baseline unit like say a guardsman squad, they go in completely redesign the miniature, the kit, the weapons.
No, hang on
everything.
a second. You know,
Don't focus in. You're focusing in on stuff to try and make your point. If they go in and did the same to the Tau Fire Warrior unit, designed it from the ground up again,
Right.
I'd say you could have as major a shift as you saw with the Primaris.
But is that the same with Ogryns?
Stop focusing on one word.
But you mentioned Ogryns.
I mentioned Ogryns because I hate the current design.
Yeah, so I'm asking you for a yes or no on this.
Yes, fine, yes.
Okay, so if they redesign the Ogryns from the ground up,
Yes, or any squad.
you consider that as major.
Wait, any
Yeah.
squad?
As the
Did he say squats? Can we see
Any
squats in
squad?
front of K?
so a redesign of the Ogryns is
Or any squad, yes. Stop focusing.
but they're not all the same, Justin. To go in and
need to be.
redesign the standard Fire Warrior,
Yeah.
right, is going to have more impact than the redesign of an Ogryn, for example, or a Ratling. Okay, there is one other model that has to be redesigned.
Yeah.
And I can't even remember the name of it.
What
Which faction?
The chicken walker thing in the Tau,
Oh, the battle suits.
the battle suits. Tau battle suits are
Yeah,
They're
that.
very weird
are
looking now.
horrendous. They
Yeah.
are absolutely horrendous.
They're very
They've been horrendous for a while.
Yeah.
They could have an amazing
I agree.
amazing
Yeah.
Yes.
upgrade right now.
Yes.